In this video, we will be going over how to prepare your environment for least privileged use. We will discuss data collection, privileged application discovery, self-service elevation requests, and users with local administrator rights. Now that you have installed the Privilege Manager console, configured the server, and deployed the client, you are now ready to prepare your environment for least privileged use by configuring reporting and discovery, approved privileged applications, user self-service, and by removing local admin rights. In this demo, we will configure data collection, which is used to compile reports, support discovery, and launch on-demand features. Client data collection settings will only apply on computers running a client. Data collection is a requirement for other features like privileged application discovery and self-service elevation requests. Privileged application discovery is used to collect information about the privileged applications used on your network during a specified time period. By default, once this feature is enabled, it is set to collect information for 2 weeks, but you can adjust this setting. Next, to give users the option to request permissions to use privileged applications, we will configure self-service elevation requests. Whenever a user attempts to run an application which requires administrative permissions for which they do not have rights, they will be asked if they would like to send a request to their administrator for permission to run it. You can select how users access the request form and set up self-service notifications to email you and others of each request. Then you can process the request within the self-service elevation requests section of the console and email your decision to the user. The last step in preparing your environment for least privilege use is to remove administrative access from users who no longer require it. Use the Users with Local Admin Rights screen to discover which domain users have been assigned to the local administrators group on client computers and remove them. Now we will continue to a demonstration of how to set up each one of these features. To configure data collection, open the Client Data Collection Settings wizard from the Setup Tasks section. On the State tab, you will have 3 options: Not Configured, Enabled, and Disabled. Choose Enabled, otherwise the settings won't apply to the selected GPO. Choose Not Configured to enable child GPOs to inherit settings from their parent. Choose Disabled to turn off this feature. I want to turn on data collection, so I'll select Enabled, click Next. Define the server on the Settings tab. This server will receive data from the clients of the target GPO. Click the Browse button to locate a server via Active Directory. Use the Test button to test the selected server's connection to the ScriptLogic PA reporting service. If the test fails, check to see if there are network or firewall problems. Use the Advanced Settings section on the Settings tab to set the data transfer parameters. Maximum sleep time sets the staggered time period within which every client will send data to the data collection service. Send retries defines the number of retries that are made if an attempt to connect to the web service fails. Network timeout sets how many seconds a client should wait to stop sending data if it does not reach the target. Maximum records per transaction indicates how many portions of cache data the client sends. After the advanced settings are set, click Next. Use validation logic to target the settings to specific client computers or user accounts within the GPO. Click Next. Finally, on the GPO tab, select the desired GPO and click Finish. The data collection settings and the other features can be edited by going to Group Policy Settings, GPOs with Policy Settings. Click on the GPO that had the settings, and then go to the Advanced Policy Settings tab. Now we can see the client data collection settings is set to enabled. Double-click or click on Details to change any of the settings. Next, we'll open up the Privileged Application Discovery wizard. The State, Validation Logic, and GPO tabs will be the same for all features. However, do take note of the warning provided here on this screen. Privileged Application Discovery can generate an enormous amount of data. It is recommended that it is not deployed to the whole network at once. Instead, enable it in smaller subsets of machines, such as OUs, or some limited number of OUs at a time. Also, remember to turn off Privileged Application Discovery once administrative rights have been taken away from the desired users. Click Next. Use the Settings tab to set the period during which the settings will apply and the data will be collected. It is recommended not to set this range longer than 2 weeks. Click Next. Configure your validation logic rules. Select your group policy. Use the Filters tab to filter out application discovery data according to different application-specific criteria. On the Filters tab, select the checkbox to enable application filters. Enter filter criteria in at least one of the available boxes. An application only needs to meet a single filter criteria in order for its application discovery data to be filtered out. A comma delimiter can be used to enter multiple criteria in each filter box. The Privilege Manager client will not transmit any application discovery data for applications that meet any of the existing filter criteria. Click Finish. To view discovered applications, go to Discovery and Remediation, Privileged Application Discovery, and here you can change your filters. Once the filters are set, click on Display Applications, and the applications will be listed below. At this point, you can then select applications and generate rules from those detected applications, or ignore and mark as processed. Now we're going to click on the Self-Service Elevation Request wizard. We're going to configure this, so Enabled, and click Next. Use the Settings tab for selecting how users access the request form. An in-depth explanation of each option is available in the Administrator's Guide. Click Next. Configure validation logic. Select the GPO. And once again, configure any filters if necessary. And then click Finish. To view self-service elevation requests, go to Discovery and Remediation, Self-Service Elevation Requests. Change any filters that are necessary. Click on Display Requests, highlight the request, and click the Process Request button. It will then allow you to create a rule based upon the request. To view the rule you created, go to Group Policy Settings, GPOs with Policy Settings, highlight the group policy, and the rule we just created will be shown here. Finally, we'll configure the users with local admin rights. Under the Discovery and Remediation section, select Users with local admin rights. Next, we'll have to select a computer. The computer must be turned on and accessible from the network. WMI, DCOM, file and print sharing, and remote administration must be allowed through the firewall. Within the Select Computer section, use Add or Remove buttons to add or remove computers. Click the Discover Accounts and Local Administrators Groups button to discover users and domain groups with local administrator rights. By default, the search results will only include domain users and domain groups. However, you can optionally opt in to include local and built-in users as well. The list of discovered users will display in the User Accounts Discovered in Local Administrators Group section. Revise the list to only include users you are potentially going to revoke rights from, then make your final selection from the remaining list. Click the Exclude Selected Entries from List link to remove users from the list. Select users from the remaining list for which you would like to revoke their local administrator rights. Click the Remove All Selected Users from Local Administrators Groups button. In the window that opens, click Yes to confirm that you want to remove the users or groups. When the operation is complete, the users will no longer have local administrator rights. And this concludes our video for preparing your environment for least privilege use. To learn more about Privilege Manager, visit support.quest.com/privilege-manager-4-Windows.